Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's 30 Minutes program. I'm Paul Tinkle, and I have a terrific guest with me today, and his name is Mark Lowrance. Now, many of you have grown up with Mark in the Obion County area, but I have known him since I was very, very young, and Mark and I are old friends, but today we're kind of having fun and at the same time a little bit on the business side. Mark, first off, I want people to know that your company, Lowrance Sound Company Incorporated, is probably as well known across the United States for that fact, because of the great work that you have done by, I'll just simply say it, the best work that you can do to help people sing better, talk better, band plays better because of you. So I hope I didn't embellish that too much, but I tried to tell the truth here. So. Mark, how did you get into the world of sound? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Thank you for having me here, Paul. I got into sound actually when I was in high school. I started learning about sound and actually built my first PA at the end of high school for a band that I was in, you know. And then we worked around here in Union City for several years, and then we went on the road.
So let me go back to being a kid in Obion County in Union City. Did you ever think you were going to be fooling around with microphones and speakers and those kinds of things?
Well, I hope to by the middle of high school, you know, because it really had me. I really loved music. You know, I used to could sing, and so it all fit in real well together. Love music, you know.
So how did you start a business, or on your own, or run out of the carport or a garage or something?
Well, that's pretty varied through those years. We started out building cabinets in my granddaddy's garage. That was J.D. Prince over on 2nd Street. And we built smaller stuff that we could build there. But then we got bigger. We're trying to build our first big road PA. And back then, y'all, all this stuff just was not available. If you got a big console, it was a studio console, and it was very expensive. So we started building from the ground up our own equipment, built our own speaker cabinets, finally ended up with a good console line that we were proud of.
You know, in talking about this kind of work, I got to ask on this, were there many bands when you were first getting out and doing all of this? I'm talking about local bands, for example.
There were several. While I was at college in Martin, I ran sound for a group called Hanger, which is a very good and fairly well-known back then group. Of course, they're all band directors now, except for me, and I helped most of them.
You know, and being in that world of sound, your time was well spent, but I'm sure that you had to learn a whole lot about what it takes to have sound in the right direction and music in the right direction as well. Tell me about that.
Well, that is so true. Yeah, it took me years. I studied everything I could. In the early days, it was very simple. The product was very simple and wasn't so bad. As we grew, we took on lines. We got well known. Ended up, you'd end up in the shows in either Las Vegas or Orlando or somewhere, and there'd be thousands and thousands of people. We had several consulting friends. Most of them have retired now, but we're out of that bunch of people.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of these local bands had to have somebody to, get their PA system and so forth. And I have, much like you, I've watched some concerts growing up. But now the concerts are way over the top than what we had 50 years ago or 60 years ago, for that fact.
Yeah. The equipment has changed so much. And the last small concert system we built for the city of Martin at their new library opened up.
Nice work, by the way. I've seen all of that.
We tried to prepare them for a medium venue. Probably it's 120 by 120, I think, space out there. We modeled it all, which is something we can do nowadays, is computer model what sound reinforcement looks like and its dispersion, etc. And it's
now those frequency. Are big words, dispersion, and I don't know.
Sorry,
I don't know what all that means, but is that sending the music in different directions?
Yeah,
you have to help me here.
Well, the dispersion is typically talking about a horizontal coverage area, an angle horizontal. It'll be identified as maybe a 60-degree or a 90-degree speaker, that type of thing, and that's how that's done. With other electronics, then you divide your system into great big woofers, then some woofers that are smaller, and then some mid-range horns, and then some tweeters. It's just like a great big hi-fi speaker when you really get down to it. It was a really fun life there for a while for a young man that was not married, Wait a
minute, you use the word woofer. Can you tell me what kinds of speakers these things are?
Well, woofers are for reinforcement of low-frequency material in a device. Most of them, depending on what it is and the quality of it, some things may go down to 40 or 50 hertz. Something that goes real deep may go to 20 or 30 hertz. So you start down way low like that and you work up, and all the way up to the mid-range of voice would be coming through the woofer. And then the mid-range would take care of it and go on up to the next, the tweeter.
Have you ever gone to I'll call it a concert, an outdoor? I know you've had to go to some that you weren't working, and you can tell whether the guys know what they're doing or maybe they don't have the right equipment. I've been to a lot of concerts, and sometimes it's hard to hear, and what we want is good hearing. You agree?
Exactly. Everybody wants the best experience they can get, and that's what you're trying to give them, is that experience. Some of the worst places, the Pyramid in Memphis was a terrible sound trouble.
Was that yours?
Well, we got called in on it when the Grizzlies moved. A consultant I knew out of Kansas City asked that we be the contractor for it because he trusted us and wouldn't have to be on site all the time. So we started on that. We basically upgraded the Pyramid when the Grizzlies got to town, right in that area. And we maintained it for 3 or 4 years before they started moving or staff changed or something, If
you just joined us, we got Mark Lowrance on. Your name gets messed up a little bit, Lowrance or Lawrence or what?
Lowrance is it, really.
Yeah. And sometimes, people don't know what you do and what you've been doing. And I'd like to jump on top of that. Mark Lowrance, if you've just joined us. And first off, I want to go back to one thing. You had people behind you that were helping you. Maybe it was your parents, or maybe it was a businessman or somebody saw something in you to help you. Can you tell us about that?
Well, my parents were always supportive, but pretty well I went out on my own because I dropped out of college, which was not a thing my mother wanted me to do. Was in electrical engineering. Pretty quickly hooked up with some bands and with various promoters. I'd go to Nashville and call on people and get a few gigs that way. I actually took Cotton Ivy to Nashville and toured him around studios when he got started. So I got a lot of varied stuff in the history.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask a silly question. What is sound?
Well, sound is vibration. Now sound is you receiving the vibration, I believe. It has to make has to make airwaves that can bounce or be transmitted over to you. And their frequency, they have lows, highs, everything. And that's just the projection of sound. And we're typically in the 30 to 20,000 range for our range of most audio nowadays. That's better audio. back then we didn't have as good equipment, but it was starting. It was being built back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a lot of good Macintosh and those kind of things back then.
Well, Mark, you have essentially done just about anything you could do or have done. You worked with a lot of people, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. But you got to meet a lot of people that maybe you would have never, ever, ever been able to do what you do, and to be able to do it and make a lot of money doing what you do.
Yeah. A lot of artists, we worked, some of the more proud ones. But one thing, we did the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. Now, a lot of people up here are familiar with the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival and go down there for this event. It happens at the racetrack in New Orleans, so it fills the track, the infield, everything full of people. I cannot tell you how many people. Back when we were doing it, they had between 7 and 10 stages all going on that infield. We typically had one of the big stages with really, really good New Orleans people and some country people. I'm looking down here trying to, just some of the people that we had worked for. Start out looking at B.B. King and Bill Monroe. That's two different kinds of people, but it sure is some good music.
Did you have a relationship with Doc Severinsen from the Tonight Show?
Well, Doc Severinsen came here, and I worked his show here, and he just kept in contact a little bit, but we didn't do any more work for him because nothing was close,
Mm-hmm.
And we used to do all the stuff. Union City used to have a community concerts group, and they would put on choral groups. They would put on plays, and I used to, when it was mostly high school and shortly thereafter, would help them with their sound and help them get it right. Getting back to that list that people we've run through: Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Boots Randolph, B.J. Thomas, Buddy Guy, Charlie McLean, Charlie Rich, Chet Atkins, David Loggins, Gillespie, Delbert McClinton. I got to tell you about Delbert if you got time. Delbert is, we had worked with him, and at the festival there, we were on the main stage. So it was packed out. And after the show, he invited us to go down to Tipitina's with him, which he was doing a show, which Tipitina's was a restaurant bar down close to St. Charles Street. Anyway, it got all packed out to the extent that we were sitting on the stage and just on the front, cross-legged. And before it was all done, we were just laying on the front of the stage, and the house was just packed, and Delbert was just playing his heart out, and it was just an awesome time, absolutely awesome. That was pretty fun, pretty excellent music, and New Orleans is a fun city, too.
Is it better to be outside or inside?
Good question. Inside, if the acoustics are good, it'll help you, and the room can help you. Outside, you just, you've got to have a lot more power outside. You've got to hit all those people directly in front of you that you want them to hear with specific speakers to cover those areas.
What's the biggest concert or event that you ever played or prepared? And of course, you are playing. You're playing the music that came out of the speakers. But what was the biggest one?
As far as performance, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. We did a lot of others, like up north there. We did work with Kenny Rogers.
Well, what are you talking about? 50,000 people, 20,000, 100,000?
100.
100,000 people are listening to the voice of Kenny Rogers through the sound system that you had.
That's right. And we always prided ourselves in having good sound and having it running. I had a wreck one time leaving Union City when I got up to Clinton. Somebody slammed on their brakes, and I tried to stop our truck, which was
almost impossible.
Yep, 24-foot Bob truck at Harper's Country Hams up there. And we collided with that person, and they weren't hurt, and we were very lucky because there was 2 top rails from their fence that came between me and my rider in the truck, knocked out the front glass and the back glass, and neither one of us were hurt, and ended up in the truck on its side.
And what happened to the equipment?
Well, a lot of it got torn up, but back then there was a good fella here in Union City called Mustard Crowell, and I called Mustard, and he brought the wrecker, and he brought some folks, and we commenced to start pulling the sound equipment out of the cornfield and trying to get it put back together so that we could haul it somewhere. Those big speakers, the big woofers that we used at New Orleans and all of our concerts later on, each one of them was 6 foot wide, 4 foot high, and 2 foot deep, and it weighed about 500 pounds. Old Mustard, he'd grab one end of them, and 2 of us would get on the other end, and that's the way we'd walk it out of the cornfield. He was a strong dude and really nice guy.
You have we've had some messages on the radio about some of the things that you've done, but one of those happens to be Neyland Stadium, Knoxville, Tennessee. How'd you get that?
It was a bid, and we bid it when they were doing the North End Zone upgrade. That started some other smaller upgrades too. Yeah, we got it when I walked through the tour out into the field. I just looked and I said, Lord, what have I gotten myself into? Because this is a big place. We went, we had several things in our business through the years, but the live sound was everything. When I decided to sell our radio business, cellular business, that part of our business to Woods Communications, I just told the Lord then that I'm going to do what I want to do, and that is sound, and I need all the help I can get. Well, it wasn't any time we got a call where we had gotten the bid for North Carolina State, so that was a good size little job, about a 60,000 seater. I think they've expanded now. But Neyland is by far the biggest. We had, 50,000 feet of wire, and this number of speakers, I've forgotten now.
Did you have any idea it was going to be as big as you didn't think it was, or maybe you did think it was?
Well, I think that was the first time I'd been in the stadium, and it was just a little shock there.
I would be. I know this is a bid. Okay, I understand that. Did you ever see Tom Elam while you were doing all of that work?
I didn't see Tom. No, I sure didn't. That was during the Peyton Manning era, and we did this sound system upgrading. We watched them. Then Peyton was there. My boys went up. We always had good times at the ball games while I was operating. That's one thing. The first few years, actually about almost the first 8 years, we worked for UT. I was the guy running the sound console upstairs for the ball game. They had an operator, but they just assumed me do it.
So you were working for the university with your equipment to make sure that it sounds like it's supposed to.
At that point, it wasn't my equipment. It was just me controlling their equipment.
Oh, okay.
We were under contract for 10 years for that. And then I just could not drive back and forth to Knoxville every weekend.
Yeah.
Because that's what it had gotten to.
Well, I don't know how I think the words are bouncing off of the stadium. How do you manufacture the right sound without it being a lot of screamings and squeaks and all of those things?
Feedback, if it's feedback, the squeal you get, which is actually regeneration of audio between your microphone and speaker. You've got too much sound getting to the microphone from the speaker that's playing it, and that gives you those squeals. The stadium at Knoxville was extremely complicated. It was the first system that we used fiber optics in to run our long multi-channel audio around to the other side, and it was just a large project. When we started, I said, I told you that it was for the north end zone upgrade. Well,
yeah.
The north end zone upgrade was a basic voice system. It was not designed for video or recorded audio. And at that time, Doug Dickey was the athletic director up there. Yes, sir. And he was fighting jumbotrons then. He did not want to put a jumbotron on Neyland Stadium, and he just wasn't going to do it. Well, about a year and a half later, we got a jumbotron, and we have to upgrade the system to handle music, So
the University of Tennessee, you probably got the rest of your education working in Knoxville, so they should have given you a diploma anyway. If you've just joined us, I've got Mark Lowrance with us, and Mark is a longtime friend, Lowrance Sound Company, Union City, Tennessee. Mark, let me just run. You stop me, somebody, okay? You just stop me. So I'm looking at Johnny Cash, Johnny Rodriguez, Larry Gatlin, and the Gatlin brothers.
I got something about Larry Gatlin because we did the National JC Convention and the National JC Convention in Nashville, Tennessee, and Larry was one of the probably 20 country stars that they had there on the opening for the JCs. When he finished his set, he walked off over by the monitor console. He told me, "Mark, those are the best sounding monitors I've ever heard." That's really good. Larry Gatlin's he's really precise, and to have somebody like that say that your design is real good is helpful.
And you provided sound for Steppenwolf.
Yes, sir. Sure enough.
Tammy Wynette. We're going all over the Louise Mandrell. I was looking here.
Almost all genres.
Raisin Cane, if you remember that, folks. Rare Earth, there's another good one. Ray Price. Did you ever get to the point where you felt like, you have met just about everybody that is somebody that needs sound like what you've talked about?
Well, there weren't as many back then, but no, there's always a need, and it keeps growing. As these shows get bigger, they sell more equipment and stack it on,
Were all of these people that we have here, and I don't know what, it looks like you've got about 50, 60, 70, I don't know what the number is.
It's over 150.
Okay. I don't have all of the other. B.J. Thomas, who was the easiest or the most enjoyable? Give me about 3 or 4 people that were just really nice to a guy who just all he does is provide the very, very best sound at a concert. So there's got to be 2 or 3 of those guys for sure.
Well, that Delbert show, he was very easy to work with. Mm-hmm. Kenny Rogers, even I didn't think he would be, but he was fairly easy to work with. We did him up in Maine.
You traveled a great deal.
Yeah.
Did you have
mostly the eastern half of the country?
Were you with a 18-wheeler or I don't know how much you had to carry a lot of stuff?
Yeah, it really depended on if we were just carrying our PA or if we were putting it together with band or backdrops or something. If it was just the sound system of mine, we had the Bob truck to carry it. But if you put them all together, like we did for when we were out with Kenny Rogers and Ronnie Millsap for a little while,
and the Commodores,
that's a trailer,
and the Commodores,
yep.
We did. You got to know Lionel Richie?
Yeah. Well, I worked with him a couple times, but didn't get to know him very well. We had a real wonderful time with black artists that we produced. There were just a bunch of them in the blues field.
Rufus Thomas, Al Green. You got, and it's work, but I guess there is something that is kind of makes you feel good because you get to watch all of the concerts, no charge. you can be right up on the stage. So.
Yeah. Then you get somebody like Jerry Lee Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he, you've seen pictures and Jerry Lee, he'd be up playing on the piano with his feet and jumping up on the piano, and it was a wild show for one guy, but it was fun.
Are you still doing all of this?
Not the road work and don't really do the rental part anymore, but we are still there. This makes our 51st year we're going on to help people with audio and video and staging equipment. We do theatrical lighting. Well, we'll outfit complete theaters, actually, performance theaters. We did Playhouse on the Square in Memphis. That's our only professional one, and that's a real good place.
Let's take just one moment. Your son is right there with you side by side every single day. Carl is a great asset to this community. And Daddy, I'm sure.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, Carl grew up with this business. Truthfully, I think he probably was out with us on some things as young as 10, but I started at 16 on summers and things. He would go with us on we were already in the contracting business at that point. He and my son Craig, they had a lot of times in and out of Neyland when we were working there. And Carl was at David Lipscomb when we were doing sound in the Allen Arena when it was being built back then. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know exactly where Carl was, but I hear a lot of noise, and that's never good on the construction site. And I went outside, and a hill had blown out under a crane, and the crane flipped over, blocked the entrance to the door. Nobody was hurt, but here's this crane laying on its side where the ground gave way. It could have been a really bad situation.
Let me give you the last word about what people need to make sure that when they have a big, I don't know if I can say this in the right words, but the sounds that we hear at concerts, way over the top. I mean, so loud. What's your recommendation for young people that want to go and attend a concert, but it's going to be really, really loud?
I would recommend getting some earplugs that have a specified decibel reduction. So say that put a 20 dB plug in each ear, so what you hear is 20 dB less than what's in the room. That's probably the easiest way, because those typically still give you some fidelity coming through.
When all of these artists came through, but they tell you how they want it done, or do you tell them how it's going to be done?
Some of both. We the more headliner they are, the more we catered to them. But pretty well everybody got the same treatment. You really get down and think of it. We were always trying to help everybody and make everything better.
Mark Lowrance, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed our program today. It's been really fun visiting with my friend Mark Lowrance and Lowrance Sound Company Incorporated. And the one thing that I can say is you know how to get people's attention.
Yes, sir.
And you got to have the right microphone. Trust me, you have to have the right microphone. Thank you very much for joining me today, Mark, and it's a pleasure to have had you here on the radio to talk about some of the things that, probably wouldn't ever know about had you not sat here with me and talk about some of the things that a little boy from Union City done good. I think that's the way we call it.
Oh, thank you for having me here. I hope people got a little bit out of it, and if they need anything sound or video, from small to big, we have it. And if they're doing staging and stuff, we have it. So there's not hardly anything we can't do.
Thanks, Mark. And that's our program today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on our program today, 30 Minutes with Mark Lowrance, Union City, Tennessee, at Lowrance Sound Company. Paul Tinkle, pre-recorded. Thanks for listening, everybody, here on 30 Minutes.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.